Basically, the year started off extremely strong. Here in our office, our sales were up. I mean, believe it or not, even with Corona for Q1, our sales were up 65% over last year,
Wow.
which just goes to show how, much of a lag and slow the market got in 2019. And, big part of that was interest rates.
Hmm.
And rates have started to come in Q4, and then we saw inventory start to evaporate, and sales were very strong January, February, and we were pacing a record year.
Hmm. And then uh, I think most of us would assume that it fell off a cliff because we look around and everything is closed, and you just don't see a lot of activity right now. But I'm looking at you right now, and you're in your business.
Right,
So
right.
has it fallen off that cliff that some of us would assume it has?
So I think there's a lot of misconceptions with the current real estate market because a lot of people just assume with shelter in place, and obviously, most businesses are shut down right now, that people just aren't buying houses, and that's actually not true. We actually haven't seen hardly any lag in our business since the coronavirus, and even with shelter in place.
That's kind of stunning when you say that, because I think most of us just think that everything has ground to a halt, but you're still selling.
We are, in the last month, so we've kind of been in this corona state for about a month now. I know we've had 4 listings contract in less than 7 days. And,
Wow.
you know,
Explain that a little bit and compare that to what normal is.
so, obviously things vary by the price point. And I am talking about homes that were sub $1 million.
Hmm.
But, with the shelter in place in Corona, once that took place, a lot of agents pulled homes off the market.
Hmm.
And, with that, you have a reduction in inventory. And so we were just kind of trying to follow stats and, talking with other agents with listings in these various neighborhoods where we had listings to see how their activity changed once shelter in place happened. And a lot of the feedback we got was they were still getting showings.
Hmm.
And, people were still offering on homes, even some virtually, without actually entering the home. So
Hmm.
I think, with the reduction in inventory and low interest rates, people actually have time to look at houses because a lot of people aren't working as much,
Hmm.
has kind of spurred some growth in our housing market.
Hmm. That is an interesting point. You don't sometimes consider all of the things that change when we're going through something like this, and there are some changes in there that I guess are positive to
Right.
actually make business move forward. So, what do we make of this? You see these national headlines that come out, and it talks about how the housing market, existing home sales have just hit the brakes and started to go hard in reverse. What do you make of that when you see that?
Well, again, you got to realize a lot of these numbers you're hearing are national numbers.
Mm.
We are always kind of insulated here in Dallas, Fort Worth, because we were the strongest job market prior to COVID. We
Mhm.
had the lowest unemployment rate out of most major markets. So, at the end of the day, when you have a healthy economy, and here we were the healthiest, you see less of a lag or a drop. And I also think we still do have, companies moving people here, Uber, and, we're working with someone from Amazon.
Hmm.
So, you know, although we are in this kind of, time of uncertainty, hey, people still need shelter. And, there are people that either feel their job is safe or don't feel like, they're going to lose their job going forward. and they want to take advantage of the low interest rates.
hmm I was going to ask you about the jobs part of this because so many people, as you know, have lost their jobs, including here in Texas.
Right.
Have you found that to be an issue as you've, been, marching your way toward closing some of these deals? Have you had people who've actually lost income on the way there and had to bail out, or who were uncertain about income and had to bail out?
Yes, yes, we have. We had one deal about 3 weeks ago that was coming towards closing, and the buyer got furloughed.
Mm.
So obviously, they can't get a loan because they don't have current employment. So that deal did fall apart, and there are stories about that happening. I'm hearing throughout the industry, which obviously we try to explain to our sellers, like, once we do get a contract in the current environment, it's not closed until it's closed. A lot can happen in the period from contract to closing.
How fast are these things moving to closing these days? Has that changed at all?
We had the big refi boom the first and second week in February,
That had to
where
slow everything down
yeah,
tremendously.
all the lenders got overloaded. I mean, some of the lenders I talked to were saying they were at max capacity, like they were like literally almost turning away people. So
hmm
with that, things slowed down. Typical closings are 30 days. Lenders were telling us, hey, we need 40 to 45.
Wow.
But what I've heard in the last week is a lot of those refis have now funded and their pipelines are clearing out. So it sounds like we're getting back to 30, 35-day closings.
So more normal again. Uh,
Right,
let's talk about something that's really abnormal, and that was the reason for that getting sort of caught up like that, and that's interest
right,
rates, which have fallen to historic lows here.
right,
And I imagine that that's probably driving a lot of the activity right now as people look to buy.
right.
How big of a driver has that been?
So a lot of people don't realize, if you weren't in the market for a home last year, rates last year at one point were over 5%.
hmm
Which, you know, as I'm sure pretty much since 2012, rates have been in the fours or threes. And I think that's really what kind of slowed our market down last year, was the rise in rates. And obviously prices were leveling off from, all-time highs and whatnot. And then in Q4, we saw rates start to decline and dip back into the threes, and then obviously they've gotten even lower, since March. So, I've had a few clients lock in 3%. I actually had one that got 2.875 on a 30-year conventional, which
Not bad.
that's unheard of.
That's
And
incredible.
and so you start to hear that, that's real money. I mean,
hmm
somebody looking a year ago to now could be saving up to $1,000 a month on their payment, depending on the loan size and everything.
Boy, that's astounding. So that is a good driver, I guess, as we, hopefully start to come out of this in the months
Right,
ahead. But I should ask you, what are you expecting? What do you see right now as we go forward for the next several months? This right
right.
now is what typically, isn't it? You're
Our
ramping
season.
into your busiest time of the year.
Right, right. Starting at spring break, we call it the season, and that's typically when most home sellers will put their home on the market with anticipation of the school year ending in about 6 weeks and whatnot. So yes, this is kind of like our season. And honestly, there's a lot of uncertainty what's going to happen once things do open up. Like I said, we've been doing a lot of research and talking to other agents in our current environment, on, is it good to go ahead and list? Should we wait, et cetera, et cetera? And, we've seen that right now it's been great because inventory's down and people have a chance to, look at homes online because they're at home and aren't as busy at work as they normally would be. But with that being said, once the economy does open back up,
hmm
I think you are going to see more inventory hit the market from people that either didn't want their house on the market because they were living in it and they don't want people coming in during COVID, or they're just assuming that nobody's buying homes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we are going to see a slowdown once, it does open back up. Now, how long that's going to be, nobody knows. Just all going to depend on how much inventory hits and how long it takes for that inventory to wash out.
I've had some people ask if basically they wanted to sell, but they say, now just seemed like the wrong time. Maybe they were spooked by this whole idea of, like you said, should I have people walking through my house right now? And
Right.
so they pulled it off the market, and they wondered, like, gosh, when is a good time to put it back on? Who's even
Right.
looking? So now it might be a good time to put it back on the market if you really need to sell.
Yes. And, what I'm telling people is honestly, it's the seller's decision. If
Mm-hmm.
you're comfortable with having your house on the market, having it being shown, some houses we're doing virtual showings for the ones where they don't want people coming in. And then once we get a contract, we can allow showings and things like that. But the ones that we have had on the market, most of them have been vacant. So it hasn't really been an issue anyways, but we are taking all the proper precautions with showings that our real estate association has handed down, wearing masks, gloves, booties, sanitizer. We're advising sellers to, if you're occupying the home, if there's a showing, leave all the lights on, leave all your doors open, so that way you have the least amount of people touching things when they're inside your house.
I was going to ask you about the mechanics of walking
Right.
through a home, and you just answered it all right there. So do as much as you can so that we don't have to touch anything. That does surprise me. It's interesting, though, that you booty up and glove up and
It's
mask up before heading in now with clients to look at a house.
it's become the new normal. I showed up to a listing appointment, I think the first week in April, and that was the first time I had a N95 mask. And the seller opened the door and looked at me like I was an alien, and I was like, "Sorry, I got to do it." I had gloves and my mask on, and they kind of laughed about it, but it's like, hey, it's the new normal. And then now it's almost, you're abnormal if you're seen out without a mask on and gloves. So.
That's very interesting. It just changes the way we do business.
Right, right.
So I have to ask you about banking because
Okay.
I've heard from people who have said, wow, we wanted to jump in on these great interest rates as they've been on this escalator down.
Right,
And
right,
it sounded perfect. So we're getting in there, we're doing it right now. And then
right.
they were blown away by what the bank wanted in return for that really low interest rate. There is no such
Right.
thing as free money, is there? You gotta jump through some extra hoops.
Right, right. So that's been probably the biggest hurdle we've been trying to overcome, during this period of COVID, is the changing in lending, which is based on the bank, lender, et cetera. It's changing by the day. JP Morgan came out, I think this was last week, and said they're now requiring 20% down on all home loans they're doing, which, I mean, a lot of people can't come up with 20%.
Right.
So that's a big deal. The FHA, a lot of banks changed their FHA and VA guidelines, where a lot of times you could have a 580 credit score and still qualify. A lot of these banks bumped it up to 700.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I did hear stories of people that were in contract and that change happened, and then their deal fell apart because their credit score didn't qualify.
And the bank holds all the cards, as we know.
Correct.
And so, yeah, I've seen that the bank, in some cases, I heard from one woman who said the bank required a 700 credit score. They required 20% down, and they wanted to see, I guess, evidence that they could pay these first 6 mortgage payments.
6 months, right, of reserves. Yeah, it varies bank to bank. a lot of times they want 3 months, but a lot of banks now are requiring 6 months reserve, which obviously changes how much capital you have to have on reserve in your bank accounts to qualify.
Hmm.
And that's where I always say it really does help from a buyer side to work with a trusted mortgage professional, because these guidelines are changing so fast. If a lender is not staying on top of what guidelines are changing within their bank, you could have some issues, thinking, hey, I'm approved and qualified for this loan, and maybe they didn't read something in an email, and you get halfway through the process and then they realize, oh, sorry, you don't qualify. So
Hmm.
it really does help to work with a really good mortgage professional that is staying on top of all the changing happening in the mortgage industry.
So, but people need to be aware of that out there. That the banks right now, obviously, I mean, they're ready to lend, but also they may be a little gun shy because they know so many people have either lost some of their wages, they could be in
Right.
jeopardy of losing all of their wages, and these banks don't want to end up with a bunch of foreclosed properties on their hands, and so
Right,
they're
right.
they're
So
tightening.
that's the main reason why they're changing guidelines. They're just trying to get out in front of what if
Mm.
you have some issues with people and employment going forward, and they can't make their payments. Last thing banks want. Banks are in the business of lending. They're not in the business of holding homes. So they're strict. Making their guidelines stricter. We're seeing a lot of that in the jumbo loan market, which is over 510, 500, I believe. Loan amounts above that, you're in the jumbo territory. And a lot of lenders that I know have done away with, they can't even do jumbos because the warehouse credit lines that were giving them funding finally like, no, we don't want to fund those anymore. So things are really changing, and we as real estate professionals really have to stay on top of all the stuff that's changing. That's half the work we're dealing with now on top of our normal work, is just keeping up with everything changing.
So last thing from me, first quarter, you were looking at an expansion, a growth rate in your business
Right,
with your brokerage of 65% over the past year, first
right,
quarter.
right. It
What do
was
you
booming.
what do you think we're going to see second quarter when some more of this is factored in? We start seeing more of these homes come online. Maybe people start
Right.
coming out of lockdown. Do you see it still being up over last year, or do you think it'll break even or fall below?
You know, I really think it's going to really come down to how long it takes us to get the economy fully open. If really heat does kill COVID and we start to see, decline to almost zero cases come June, and, we can kind of get back to some normalcy, I think our spring market season basically will have just gotten pushed back
Hmm.
to where normally right now, which is typically the hottest time to sell your house, I think that will get pushed back to the end of the summer, early fall, because again, there's going to be, you know, more inventory that probably hits as we start to unwind and get back to opening the economy. But then I think you're going to start to see that, to diminish, and then you're going to see kind of the spring market become the fall market this year.
Hmm. Interesting. So sort of life delayed there.
Correct, correct.
Anything else that you want to add, Joe, that we haven't touched on here?
Really, just if you're considering selling your home, I think you really do need to talk to a real estate professional and get their guidance on what the inventory and what the market looks like in your neighborhood, your price point. I think that's the real dynamic we're dealing with right now, is everything as far as like how fast things are selling or not selling is really based down to a micro of that neighborhood.
Mm.
Um, and you could be in a neighborhood where there's a handful of homes on the market under $1 million, and you have one to sell. And guess what? You might get a lot more showings and get it sold faster now than you would waiting 2 or 3 months.
Hmm.
And so that's why you probably shouldn't have just assumed because of COVID that homes aren't selling, because homes are selling. Um, and rates are still almost at a historical low. So people are really trying to take advantage of
There will be people who are relieved to hear those things that you just said there at the end.
that.
Uh,
Absolutely.
Joe Atkins from Joe Atkins Realty has his own brokerage there and is on the board for the Texas Association of Realtors, has been on the Metro Texas Association and the National Association of Realtors as well. And I think what makes you the coolest is that you are the personal realtor and cousin of our own Joe Trahan. So
Yes, sir. Yes,
it's
sir.
great to reach out to you and to talk to you. And
Absolutely.
here's many blessings ahead and much luck ahead as we head into these next several months. But it's great to get this perspective today from somebody who's been on the ground and still, working it for these past several weeks.
Yes, yes. You can ask my wife. I'm just as busy now as before COVID.
Mm.
Unfortunately, we've had to change our home dynamics because we both work and we have two little kids. So, my wife is great in how she's been able to help balance both of our work lives and deal with parenting as well. So, you know, everybody that's dealing with the situation I'm dealing with, you know, just look for the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm just praying we all stay safe and we can open the economy soon.
I think that's the best way to end this right there. Joe, thank you very much.
I appreciate it, Jason. Anytime.
Have a good one.
All right, you too.